After the spring festival, it's time for fishermen in Shandong province to set sail. Meanwhile, in Henan province, it's time for farmers to get busy diverting water for irrigation. Over in North China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, hydrologists are about to conduct the year's first sampling. In Lanzhou, Gansu province, people take boats across the river in search of a brighter future. Up in Qinghai, the large lakes remain frozen, while herders drive yaks through the bitter cold. In fact, it's just an ordinary day in northern China. Yet, despite living so far apart from each other and doing such different things, all these people have something in common. They are linked by the Yellow River. From its humble origins in the Yue-Gu-Zhonglie Basin in Qinghai, the Yellow River flows eastward from the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau, bending at Ruo-Ergai, Sichuan province, then continuing to meander and gather strength. From Lanzhou in Gansu province, it flows northward through 3 major deserts, giving birth to oases in Ningxia and Inner Mongolia. Next, it swerves southward where Shanxi, Shanxi, and Inner Mongolia meet, winding through the Loess Plateau, then full of sediment. Its mighty currents encounter the North China Plain via Mengjin in Henan province, before finally emerging into the Bohai Sea at Dongying, Shandong province. Altogether, the Yellow River, with its total length of 5,464 kilometers, flows through 9 provinces and autonomous regions of China and spans 3 major geographical zones, with a total basin area of 795,000 square kilometers. From the glacial meltwater of the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau to the innumerable tributaries winding through the vast wilderness, the Yellow River flows, gently at times and fiercely at others, nourishing all life and sustaining diverse ethnic groups along its banks. Moreover, with a power that transcends time and space, this is the river that powered the rise of Chinese civilization and is closest to the hearts of its people.
全球化时代呢，任何一个国家，任何一个人呢，都会有这样的一个追问，就是我是谁，我从哪里来，我到哪里去。
黄河是中华民族的根，这个不仅是血统的根，更主要是文化的根。中华民族基本的价值观念，传统文化，主要都是在黄河中下游地区产生。
中华文明的这种基本内核，我们作为中国人的一些基本性格特征，基本上它是在黄河流域形成的。
现在我们实际上5000多年的文明史了，这个有3000年，这个政治、经济、文化中心都是在黄河流域。
From prehistoric times to today's unified multi-ethnic nation, Chinese civilization stands as the world's only continuous civilization. More than half of that 5,000-year history was shaped by the Yellow River. Traversing time and space, we will witness how this great river with its mighty force has shaped Chinese civilization and the Chinese people. Even in summer, the region that is home to the source of the Yellow River experiences relentless snowfall. The Chola family has long been accustomed to such sudden climate changes. Chola's home lies beside one of the two lakes in the Yellow River source area, Gayaring Lake. The family's water supply also comes from this vast lake. On the lake's surface, there's a milky yellow ribbon, the main stream of the Yellow River. Over 10,000 years ago, as the Yellow River flowed through the region, it incorporated Gayaring Lake and Goring Lake into the river system, helping shape the river's modern course. Before even reaching this place, the river had already flowed for millions of years. Approximately 2.6 million years ago, the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau rose by over 2,000 meters. The towering mountains blocked the warm, humid air currents from the Indian Ocean, leading to drought in the northwestern inland and the gradual formation of desert landscapes. The resulting powerful monsoon carries sand and dust southeastward every winter. Meanwhile, in northern China, a series of lake basins were gradually being connected thanks to water erosion. It was this process that gave birth to the Yellow River in all its glory. When the sand and dust arrived, it began to concentrate and settle, blocked by mountain ranges such as the Qinling, Taihang, and Liuliang. With the recurring monsoon, these sand particles accumulated. So it was that the Yellow River came to connect the western and eastern regions of China. The Yellow River meanders its way through the Loess Plateau. It took hundreds of millions of years for the natural forces of sand, wind, and water to shape the mountains. It was a combination of geological, climatic, and environmental conditions that brought the Yellow River and the Loess together. It was the sediment accumulated in the tributaries that gave the great river its color and name. The Yellow River and the Loess coexist, nurturing civilization in the Yellow River basin. The pit yard, a type of dwelling unique to the Loess Plateau region, consists of a 6-meter-deep square pit with cave dwellings carved into the 4 walls. This ramp now serves as the passage between the courtyard and the ground. Zhu Shuyun, now in her 70s, has spent most of her life in a pit yard.
我小时候，我母亲给我做过吹草艺花这个衣服，我就自己就念念不忘。
Petals and grass are placed between layers of cloth, then gently beat, allowing the water from the petals and grass to seep out. This process creates patterns of flowers and grass. Once the color is set, the patterns will not wither away. Zhu Shuyun has been preserving this craft for several decades, long years that have left their mark on this courtyard. While the Loess's loose structure makes it easy to excavate, it also possesses a high degree of vertical stability. This is what makes these pit yards so solid and durable. Indeed, the unique characteristics of the Loess Plateau went beyond mere habitability. It's also provided the environmental foundation for one of the greatest changes in human history. In October, the Loess Plateau enters the harvest season. The crop being harvested was called su in ancient China. After threshing, it becomes the foxtail millet we know today. Another crop, slightly larger than millet grains, was commonly known as proso millet. Foxtail millet and proso millet were the first two grains domesticated by Chinese ancestors in the Yellow River Basin. Even today, people in northern China still use them as staple foods out of habit. On the Loess Plateau, an ordinary family is preparing dinner. While foxtail millet is cooked into congee, the glutinous proso millet is used to make fried cakes. These ancient crops not only have fed the people, but also brought warmth and joy to their everyday lives. The commonplace scene of a family sitting together at night is of deep significance when it comes to the origins of civilization. About 2 million years ago, across the vast land of China, the ancients thrived along the rivers, forever on the move, gathering and hunting for food. But around 10,000 years ago, the ancients in the Yangtze and Yellow River basins began domesticating rice and millet, respectively, forging a lasting connection between people and land and marking the beginning of ancient Chinese civilization. People established stable settlements, embarking on the path of civilization that led from agricultural communities to city-states and eventually to the formation of nations.
人类从野蛮走向文明，中间非常重要的就是你能不能生产出过多的粮食，让一部分人产生专业的分化，形成专门的阶层，那么这个社会就进步了。
农业的出现对文明的产生，它是一个基础性的一个革命。如果说可以说没有农业的文明，就不可能有人类的文明。
Only by understanding the significance of agriculture to civilization can we fully appreciate the unique advantages of the Yellow River Basin. Millet is a tolerant crop. It can grow in barren soils and survive drought conditions. As such, it can subsist solely on rainfall without irrigation, something known as dryland agriculture. In prehistoric times, the Loess Plateau possessed multiple advantages for developing dryland agriculture.
典型的黄土高原早期的地貌呢，是稀树草原，长得很稀的树，然后呢，主要是草原。但这样的土地呢，你看早期的原始人，凭着石器或者简单的木器都能够开发。
有一个比喻叫做空中的尼罗河，就是像埃及的这个尼罗河，它每年能够通过它的泛滥带来大量的这样一种营养物质。那么黄土，其实它每年的这样一个降沉，也会在不断的这样补充着黄土内部的这样一些养分。
Sand grains containing various minerals are thoroughly stirred by the wind before settling. This repeated process results in an even distribution of fertility and natural growth. The soil layer of the Loess Plateau averages 69 meters in thickness, covering a total area of approximately 635,000 square kilometers. Moreover, the expansive Yellow River system provides a vital water source for human survival. Countless rivers meander through the Loess Plateau, nearly all of which ultimately flow into the Yellow River. Unlike the other three major ancient civilizations, where agriculture developed along the main streams of major rivers and was vulnerable to flooding, agricultural settlements in the Yellow River Basin are predominantly located along tributaries.
第一，大河周围没这么密集。第二，它主要分布在小河或者支流，黄河的支流再支流，黄河支流的支流，最密集的都是2公里这个范围内，非常密集，两岸都是。
From small, gentle tributaries to first and second-order tributaries, and finally to the mainstream, the ancients in the Loess Plateau region continuously explored, accumulated knowledge, and expanded, laying a solid foundation for the birth of civilization. Meanwhile, a farming area facing the ocean was formed in the lower reaches of the Yellow River. At 10 a.m., as the tide recedes, people come to the tidal flats to gather their catch. The tidal flats are home to various organisms, with mud snails being the easiest to collect as they live on the surface. Although the locals depend on the sea for sustenance, they owe these abundant catches to the Yellow River. The Yellow River flows through the Loess Plateau, carrying vast amounts of sediment, the deposition of which at the estuary formed China's newest terra firma. The freshwater and mineral-rich sediment brought by the Yellow River provide a living environment for organisms and leave behind fertile soil. As the river with the highest sediment content and the greatest land-forming capacity in the world, the Yellow River has shaped far more land than just this. After the Yellow River flows out of its final gorge, it carries sediment into the North China Plain. Historically, apart from the hills around Mount Tai, the Yellow River swept across nearly the entire alluvial fan. Wherever its channel shifted, it left behind fertile soil. The entire North China Plain is essentially one vast Yellow River alluvial fan. Today, the North China Plain is home to major cotton, grain, and oil production centers, as well as economically developed megalopolises, all thanks to the Yellow River. Yangshao, Kaifeng, Jinan, and even Tianjin and Huai'an are just some of the places the Yellow River once flowed through. From shaping the Loess Plateau to depositing sediments on the North China Plain, the Yellow River did much for the sake of future generations. So, thanks to nature's favor, the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River became a cradle of civilization.
我们的黄河流域呢，它正好位于呢我们温带的东亚季风气候区，它有一个非常重要的特点，就是雨热同季，四季分明，植物该要光的时候有光，该要热的时候有热，它该要水的时候水又来了。它对于黄河文化或者是黄河文明的产生，它是个天选之地。
In May, while the lower reaches of the Yellow River are bathed in golden hues, the wheat ears in the upper river valleys remain green. By October, the millet on the Loess Plateau bows its head, and the sunflowers in the Hertao Plain are ripe. Today, China feeds 22% of the world's population with just 7% of the global arable land, producing over 1/3 of its grain in the Hertao Plain, Fenway Plain, and North China Plain, through which the Yellow River flows. This fertile land is imbued with the cultural genes of the Chinese nation, viewing agriculture as the foundation, valuing harmony and order, respecting heaven, and following the examples of ancestors. The Yellow River connects today's Chinese people with their ancestors. Following its flowing waters, we will see the splendid culture their ancestors developed over time against the elements. Zhangxian Wei lives in the eastern Loess Plateau. The pottery clay he uses is sourced from local Loess. Pottery is the art and craft of making ceramics, the very first artificial material. Its various forms reflect the environmental, aesthetic, and cultural differences of different regions. Pottery with painted surfaces is known as painted pottery. The fine texture of Loess provides a pure base color. The painted pottery Zhangxian Wei creates using ancient techniques reflects one of the most distinctive features of prehistoric culture. For over 2,000 years, starting around 7,000 years ago, tributaries of the Yellow River were dotted with thousands of agricultural settlements on the Loess Plateau. Each settlement housed several hundred people, bound by kinship. Thanks to this stable lifestyle, primitive aesthetics and beliefs began to take shape and were expressed through pottery. This culture, characterized by its painted pottery, was named the Yangshao culture, as it was first discovered in Yangshao village, Sanmenxia. During the early Yangshao period, painted pottery patterns from different regions displayed distinct styles, including geometric designs, crescent moon motifs, and human face designs. Additionally, some patterns were inspired by creatures such as fish and birds. Of these, the human face fish pattern was particularly common in the Guangdong region, the central part of today's Shanxi province. This painted pottery basin was once placed upside down over a pottery urn, inside which lay the body of a child. Perhaps the parents channeled their profound sorrow into these patterns, hoping they would accompany their departed child. The simple, primitive art illuminated the dark prehistoric forest like a faint beam of light. Jinan is located on the lower reaches of the Yellow River. To the south of the city, the stretching branch of Mount Tai is clearly visible. Centered around the foothills of the Shandong region lies another significant prehistoric culture, the Dawenkou culture. Compared to the Yangshao culture, the Dawenkou culture displays many differences in terms of the characteristics of the artifacts it has left behind. Pottery of the Yangshao culture is mostly decorated and flat-bottomed, whereas pottery of the Dawenkou culture is mostly plain and three-legged. These two distinct cultures, one in the middle reaches and the other in the lower reaches, continuously interacted and integrated, all thanks to the Yellow River. The vast farming area and the interactions between the two groups became key driving forces behind the evolution of civilization in the Yellow River Basin.
如果一大群人他在想农业的事儿，你想他农业，他的发展就快。他不是这个父亲母亲传给儿子、传给孙子一代一代的知识积累，它是一个平的横向的知识积累。那它的社会复杂化也是这样，它就快。
The ancestors of the two cultures along the Yellow River constantly interacted and merged, and the cultures they created would ultimately blend into the great Chinese civilization. When the Yellow River gets past Tongguan, it finds its way barred by the Qinling Mountains. Bending eastward, it converges with its largest tributary, the Weihe River. The triangular area formed by the confluence of these two major rivers is renowned for the excellence of its water and soil resources.
第一，可以避免像黄河这样的一个大河洪水的影响。一级支流就是它的支流，又有呢比较充足的水量，可以利用，土壤又是肥沃的。所以说，这是古文明在发展过程之中一个很有利的地带。
The Yellow River and the Weihe River carry vast amounts of sediment, depositing fertile land at their confluence. Henan, Shanxi, and Shanxi provinces converge here. This region was once the core of the Yangshao culture. Approximately 6,000 years ago, the Yangshao culture entered its middle period. In the area around the junction of Shanxi, Shanxi, and Henan provinces, encircled by the Yellow River, several large central settlements emerged, covering areas of hundreds of thousands and even up to 1 million square meters. Compared to the earlier period, the more advanced productivity and social organization led archaeologists today to specifically designate it as the Miaodigou type of Yangshao culture. Around 5,500 years ago, this culture, born in the bend of the Yellow River, exerted a powerful influence over the land of China. Zhang Runrun is restoring one of the most classic patterns of Miaodigou painted pottery.
我也是摸索了很久才找到规律的，就是先画定位作用的原点，以原点引出黑色的弧形三角形，循环往复，无始无终。
Classic patterns of Miaodigou painted pottery feature 3 specific elements: hooked leaves, curved triangles, and dots. When the black paint fades into the background, a flower blooms in the blank space of the composition. This pattern has thus come to be conventionally known as the petal pattern.
有时候看着像花像花朵，但是也有人认为它是一种旋转的一种动态的图案，所以有时候把它叫旋纹。
那也有人认为它就是动纹，比如说鱼纹等等等等，这个解释是千差万别的。
Although there are various interpretations of the patterns, it is certain that compared to the diversity of earlier designs, the painted pottery from Miaodigou exhibits a strong uniformity. Even more astonishing is that the distribution of the petal pattern painted pottery extends far beyond the middle reaches of the Yellow River.
北边可以到这个内蒙古中南部，东边到江南是吧？南边到湖南，西边呢到青海，到四川的西北部。这么大的一个范围呢，实际上就涵盖了我们后世中国的主体区域。它非常突然的，很短时期内到全国。
So, how did the petal pattern become so popular across the country?
地球上比较简单的事物可以同时出现，同时被发明，但比较复杂的事物不可能同时产生。复杂的图案，特别是一种模式，肯定是传播的。
During the Miaodigou period, northern and southern China developed diverse cultures based respectively on rice cultivation and dryland agriculture, and cultural exchanges between regions increasingly deepened.
那作为彩陶来说，之所以会在5500年到5000年期间 从中原地区向周边开始扩散，说明什么？也就是说，它所代表的是最先进的文化。各个地方在看到这样一种代表这种文化的符号以后，大家都接受了这样一种文化。
庙底沟的彩陶的扩展，其实就是黄河中游地区这种文化思想的一个扩展过程，形成一个心理的大家是一起的，我们是一群人，我们是一起的，这么一体化的一个思想形成的一个过程。
那之所以中华文明5000年连绵不断，就是它不断的在融合，不断的在走向统一，这就是中华文明的一个突出的特性。
In ancient Chinese, Hua, the character for China, means flower. Hua first appeared in the bronze inscriptions of the Western Zhou dynasty, its form resembling a flower with a stem. Thus, archaeologists poetically speculate that the petal pattern on Miaodigou painted pottery may be the origin of Hua. In other words, it was the petal pattern that set people thinking about what it meant to belong, what it meant to be Chinese. With the rise of painted pottery art, cultural interaction and integration spread across the land. Amidst the vast mountains and seas, diverse ethnic groups were connected and united by the culture that was nurtured by the Yellow River, laying a broad foundation for what later became a unified Chinese civilization. With the widespread dissemination of painted pottery, regional cultures became increasingly integrated and gradually evolved into civilizations. Beginning around 5,300 years ago, several large central settlements such as Shuanghuai Shu, Nanzuo, and Jiaojia emerged successively in the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River. Meanwhile, in the upper reaches, the Ma-Jia-Yao culture elevated painted pottery to its pinnacle, and the regional civilizations of the Yangtze River and West Liaohe River basins also blossomed with dazzling brilliance. Across the land, several urban settlements and numerous surrounding communities of various levels formed distinct ancient states. In that glorious era, it was the Yellow River Basin, leveraging its unique advantages, that propelled Chinese civilization from diversity toward integration.
在黄道岩冲来这个泥这个土啊，通过长期的这个水的冲刷，把沙子全部淘洗，留下都是泥的精华。
The pottery clay that Wang Xianli is processing originates from the fine mud eroded and deposited by the Yellow River in its lower reaches. After repeated sifting, it is nearly free of impurities and possesses a strong viscosity. It will be used to restore a very special piece of pottery. While a piece of pottery typically measures about 1 centimeter in thickness, Wang Xianli is aiming for a thickness of less than 1 millimeter. As the body gradually thins, even the slightest carelessness can undo all previous painstaking efforts. It is astonishing that long before the invention of the potter's wheel, ancient artisans had already mastered the exquisite technique of crafting pottery less than 1 millimeter thick. The rim of this pottery cup is as thin as 0.2 millimeters at its narrowest point. This type of black pottery is vividly referred to as eggshell black pottery, and the era during which it was produced is known as the Longshan culture period. The Longshan culture period began approximately 4,500 years ago. During this era, pottery from various regional cultures was predominantly black and gray, exhibiting both commonalities and unique features. Furthermore, embryonic towns and cities were gradually emerging, numbering in the thousands and spreading throughout various regions. Exchanges, conflicts, and competition among these regions subsequently intensified. During the dynamic Longshan culture period, the advantages of the Yellow River Basin became evident once again. At 7 a.m., archaeologists at the Shimao ruins head for the excavation site. They are passing through the core section of the site, the Imperial City platform. Surrounding the Imperial City platform are stepped revetments constructed from stone blocks. The top is flat and expansive, featuring the remains of several palace buildings. The Shimao city site covers more than 4 million square meters, making it the largest Longshan site discovered to date. However, the Shimao ruins is situated in the northern Loess Plateau, characterized by crisscrossing ravines and a thin soil layer overlaying extensive bedrock. But in an environment in which arable land was limited, what sustained the large-scale Shimao city? One key factor was the Yellow River. Taken together, the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau in the southwest, the Gobi Desert in the northwest, and the ocean in the southeast created a relatively enclosed space, allowing for the independent development of Chinese civilization. However, the Yellow River winds through several twists and turns before flowing northward, creating a magnificent U-shaped bend. To the north of the bend lies the vast Eurasian steppe, while to the northwest is a crucial corridor for prehistoric exchanges between China and other cultures across the Eurasian continent. Shimao, situated to the north of the bend, owed its early embrace of the outside world to its strategic position at the forefront of cultural exchange. The animal bones being cleaned are evidence of China's interactions with the outside world in prehistoric times. At the Shimao ruins, countless fragmented bones like this were unearthed. Testing revealed that a large portion of these bones came from just 2 animals, oxen and sheep. Oxen and sheep are familiar domesticated animals in today's China, but they are not actually native to the country. They were first domesticated in West Asia and introduced to China during the Longshan culture period. Relying on these introduced species, the ancestors of Shimao developed a semi-agricultural and semi-pastoral mode of production, while simultaneously creating a distinctive culture. Ever since the Longshan culture period, the number of settlements to the north of the Yellow River's bend had been rapidly increasing. At the same time, a farming pastoral way of life was gradually emerging across the land. For that reason, the river increasingly became an important geographical and cultural link.
人们一般的看到这个滔滔的黄河，总是想到它是一个天堑，实际不是这样，因为它的存在，它维系了草原游牧部族和半农半牧的黄河流域以及中原的这个整个的农业地区的这种联系。因此，在石峁我们发现的这些器物，有一些是由草原民族，甚至于西亚和中亚地区的这种形象。那这就是黄河带来的一种南北和东西的这种交流。
China's terrain is high in the west and low in the east, so most of its rivers flow from west to east. The Yellow River, however, with its countless meanders, traces a magnificent path in the north-south direction, miraculously shaping the vast landscape of prehistoric China. The essential openness and inclusivity of Chinese civilization have also endured from ancient times into the present day. Taosi village is situated on the south bank of the Fenhe River, the Yellow River's second largest tributary. A thrilling performance is about to begin here. 25 benches are stacked to form a 9-meter-high tower. Within seconds, the lead dancer climbs to the top. Two groups gradually ascend, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, their movements guided by the rhythm of the drum beats. The drum originated in ancient times and was used in significant events such as warfare and rituals. About 4,300 years ago, on the Loess tableland south of Taosi village, a prosperous city once echoed to the sound of drum music. Gao Jiangtao, the leader of the archaeological team, is presiding over the excavation of the Taosi site, a large Longshan culture period city covering approximately 2.8 million square meters, where numerous ritual musical instruments have been discovered. 3 types of musical instruments, pottery drums, stone chimes, and crocodile skin tuo drums, appear in fixed quantities and combinations at identical locations within 6 large tombs. Furthermore, the Taosi site unearthed the earliest bronze-copper bell discovered in China to date. These early forms of ritual and musical culture continued through the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties, highlighting the continuity of Chinese civilization. This building, reconstructed on its original site, is one of the most astonishing discoveries at the Taosi site. The 13 rammed pillars, arranged in a fan shape, constitute the oldest observatory in the world. At 7 a.m., Gao Jiangtao and his team proceed to the observatory for observation and recording. The observatory was first discovered in 2003, and during the initial 2 years, continuous recording took place.
咱就这么录着就行了。看这个山，多神奇的！最高峰上面有个塔，所以叫塔儿山。
Tower Mountain is located east of the Taosi Observatory. The sun is about to rise over the summit.
一会儿你就看到地上一道光，一道光柱。
Sunlight passes through the gap between the pillars and illuminates the central observation point. After years of observation, it was discovered that when the sunlight crosses the ridge line, passes through the gap between the pillars, and precisely shines on the central observation point, it coincides exactly with a solar term. This is clear evidence that the ancients had come to understand the sun's movement and phonology.
应该不是陶石人完全的发明。对于太阳的观测，从很早就开始，人类就开始摸索和探索。这个探索过程极为的漫长，尽管漫长，但是这些天文学知识它就会承袭下来，代代相传，甚至是在跨文化之间的这种传承。
Scholars believe that this observatory embodies the agricultural knowledge and wisdom accumulated by ancestors from various regions of China over thousands of years. The absorption and integration of diverse cultures is a defining characteristic of Taosi culture.
东西南北的这个文化的，都在陶寺这个文化里面有所发现。
During the Longshan culture period, exchanges among regional cultures reached their peak. The inclusiveness of Taos culture suggests that its birthplace, the middle reaches of the Yellow River, was becoming a melting pot of diverse cultures. Archaeologists classify prehistoric cultures into various regions based on their characteristics. Of these, the Central Plains region, where the Taosi site is located, spans the middle and parts of the lower reaches of the Yellow River. This region lies at the heart of diverse cultural exchanges. Thanks to its accessible location, the middle reaches of the Yellow River became a melting pot of diverse cultures during the late Longshan culture period. Around 4,300 years ago, when the ancestors of Taosi sounded their drums, they were marking the end of a long era and the dawn of a new one. As Chinese civilization progressed beyond the limitations of that glorious era of diverse cultures, in the heartland of the Central Plains, the Yellow River would witness its evolution from a diverse ancient civilization into a unified dynastic civilization. In the waves and currents of the great river, a grand merging of cultural elements was about to take place, one destined to make history.
黄河水向东流，清澈的童年，几万里的春秋，故乡的图案没尽头。曾经的少年慢慢走。